This is the Aftermarket Radio Network.
Welcome to another episode of Speak Up Effective Communication, the show on the Aftermarket Radio Network, which is aimed at elevating our communication and leadership skills. The title of our episode today is Being a Barnabas. And we really will be elevating our speaking skills in this episode with our guest, Evangela Brumfield. Thank you so much for joining us, Evangela.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. This is going to be a lot of fun. I've talked with Evangela's husband, Austin, on a previous episode, Pilot Talk, and we had a good time with that. So this will be a little bit different today. And as you guys know, every episode, I like to introduce a word of the day, and it's in the title of the episode. Today's word of the day is not necessarily a word as much as a name. It's Barnabas. And we're going to define what this means in this context for you after we hear a word from our sponsors. Looking to take your shop to the next level of quality service, team culture, and overall profitability? At the Institute, we provide personalized coaching that aligns with your goals of financial stability, excellent customer service, and employee satisfaction. Our priority is helping you establish significant and sustainable progress. We work with you to create strategies that reduce the stress of running your business, improve your quality and performance, and optimize your profitability. Experience the benefits of professional coaching by visiting wearetheinstitute.com/business-assessment. Hey friends, as you know, I'm a proud member of the AutoFlow team, and let me tell you, we've changed how business is done for auto shops everywhere. We support your client experience before, during, and after the work is done. Imagine this. Timely updates sent directly to your clients, branded digital vehicle inspections, and seamless communication from start to finish. That's why shops love AutoFlow. And hey, with those 5-star reviews rolling in, you'll wonder how you ever managed without us. Take an important next step and take your auto shop to the next level. Visit www.autoflow.com. Get on board with an AutoFlow trial. Are you ready to meet your perfect auto repair shop management software partner? Well, say farewell to the days of transactional relationships and hello to a true partnership that elevates your business. The number one all-in-one solution is AutoLeap. You're not just getting software, you're gaining a dedicated ally committed to your success. AutoLeap will help you sell more, save time, and delight your customers at every turn. From scheduling appointments to creating estimates, generating invoices, managing technicians, and seamlessly syncing with QuickBooks to keep your records updated. Experience the difference a true partnership makes. Visit AutoLeap.com and book a demo today. AutoLeap, your trusted partner for success. Want to see your auto repair shop thrive? Are you looking to drive more customers to your auto repair shop? Let ShopDog Marketing be your guide. Our customer-first approach, combined with AI-driven creative content, ensures top rankings. Dominate mobile-first and voice search with our specialized expertise. Reach out to ShopDog Marketing today and start growing your business. Don't miss out on this chance to boost your business. Visit shopdogmarketing.com. Inbound has exclusively served independent auto repair shops with expert communication solutions for years. Our robust VoIP platform ensures you stay connected while our industry-leading AI analytics take your business to the next level. We provide the tools you need to understand your customers and optimize every interaction. Choose Inbound for proven expertise and unmatched innovation. Visit callinbound.com and discover the difference we can make. All right, welcome back. We are here with Evangela Brumfield. As I mentioned before the break, the word of the day is Barnabas, but that's a name. So in this context, Evangela, what does it mean to be a Barnabas?
Yeah, so the name Barnabas means son of encouragement. And so being a Barnabas is being somebody who is an encouragement to people. Yeah, that's the goal of being a Barnabas, is being somebody who's going to go and encourage the people around them.
That's beautiful. And this is one of those things I love for our listeners too. We get to take this topic. We're going to go all sorts of cool directions here with Evangela, as I sort of did with Austin as well. Being that Austin was my flight instructor, being that you guys are missionary aviation folk, and you are a trained A&P mechanic as well, right, Evangela?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So you have a lot in common with our industry. The only difference is the vehicles you worked on fly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess they're a little more expensive, not always more high tech.
Yeah, definitely not.
No, it's a lot of older technology. I gotta ask you, like, what was your impression working on your A&P certification? Was that like the real passionate part of this missionary aviation journey you and Austin were on? Or is that sort of like
I didn't.
mechanical?
Right. I didn't expect it to be something I was passionate about at first. It was kind of I wanted to be a pilot. That was what I was getting into this for. But missions agencies, you're serving overseas and bush and in places where you've got to be able to fix your own aircraft. And so all these missions organizations said, if you're going to be a pilot with us, you also have to be a mechanic. So it's kind of a necessary evil almost at first.
Yeah. Well, it just makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it does. But once I got into it, I really loved it. And honestly, I tell people now, I feel more at home just working on the aircraft than I do even flying the plane. I still love flying, but if I had to pick one or the other, I would choose the maintenance side.
That's really, really cool. I know a lot of guys in my industry too. Their sons, one guy in particular, his son went and joined the Air Force as a mechanic. That's what he wanted to do, is go to the Air Force as a mechanic, work on some of those super cool vehicles that they have, aircraft. Yeah, it's a whole different thing. But what a cool thing. I'd like to say our industry, personally, one of the things I've noticed is that we do not have a lot of female technicians or repair specialists moving into the industry. And that's something that we're really hoping to change. Is that true for the A&P side of things as well in your observations?
It is, yeah. It was actually kind of odd, though, because when I started at the school that I got trained at, I was one of 7 females in the group of about 30. And they said that was their largest group yet of females in training. And then the second year they had 8. So everybody's like, I think it's growing, the amount of females going into maintenance. So yeah, that's great. Exciting.
Well, that's really interesting. I mean, it's just so efficient. I mean, Austin and you both being pilots, but with the mechanical certifications as well. What a sufficient, self-sufficient team, really.
Yes.
What's going to be a pretty difficult place. And that's where the whole the Barnabas thing, because Arctic Barnabas is the name of the mission that you guys are joining way out in Alaska.
Yes.
Quite far from where you were raised.
Very exact opposite end of the U.S., exact opposite corner.
So you were in Florida. Which part of Florida were you hailing from?
In between Gainesville and Ocala. So central Florida, kind of south of Jacksonville.
Yeah. One of the things I talked about with Austin is I really thought okay, you guys coming up here to Michigan, where I was fortunate to meet you guys and have Austin for my flight instructor. Yeah, Michigan kind of preparing you for something even more cold.
Yes, absolutely. I'm very thankful that we ended up here first. Get to learn how to drive on the roads and all the different things during the winter that I just would not have been prepared for at all, just moving straight up to Alaska.
Well, yeah, not that it'll matter up in Alaska. I understand some of the places you're going, there really aren't a lot of roads either.
That's true. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. So, okay, Austin was my flight instructor, but he was functioning as your flight instructor too at one point.
Yes. Yeah. So after I finished my instrument, I started working on commercial training at the school I was at in Florida. And yeah, it was just a long process. And we ended up getting married partway through that process. And it just kind of made sense. He's a flight instructor. Why would I go pay somebody else to instruct me when he can do it himself?
Well, sure. I mean, I always say there's the shoulder to shoulder time with your spouse is really great. For me and my wife, that means walking.
Yes.
Shoulder to shoulder, as you really are in these small airplanes, that involves right seat, left seat. And when you're the student, your left seat, Austin will be right seat.
Yeah.
And wow, that must be a challenge for communication sometimes too. I'm imagining my experience communicating with my flight instructor was even different with the spouse relationship involved.
Yes, it was.
How does that work?
Yeah. So I feel like I was probably the one that was more problematic with it all, just because I'm from the South. We're very big on respect. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am.
Sure.
Just please, thank you. All of that is very ingrained in the Southern culture, whereas my husband is from Indiana. And so that's not very much. So the way he communicates is very efficient. He's going to not do with the frills and everything, but hey, like do this, do that. And especially in a flight instructing capacity, you kind of need to be on top of things and you don't need to deal with all the extra stuff. But then as a wife, my expectation was, hey, you're going to say please and thank you and all of that. And it was weird because I never expected that out of any of my other instructors, but he was my husband. And so I expected that. And so I had to lower my expectations and realize, hey, when we get in the plane, we put, the home life behind us and we are communicating in a different capacity.
Yeah, so just like you would any other student, basically.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. Now I got to pick on him for being from Indiana a lot too. Yeah. Our first cross country flight training, we went down there. It's like, we really need to go the other way. Northern Michigan. But like that, I'm trying to picture how I would be in that scenario too. If I were, my wife isn't interested in flying planes at all. She doesn't like flying. But I don't know. It'd be so hard to treat your spouse like you would any other person.
Right.
And that, I don't know, that could be dangerous in some scenarios. You might make assumptions you would otherwise leave out the table. Is there some things that you felt that would have been easier if that wasn't the relationship, or harder?
Yeah, I think when it came to deciding who was PIC, pilot in command, that was kind of one of the tougher things, because usually when you get in a plane with somebody else, that is kind of already predetermined. Somehow you decide on that. And when it's your spouse, I don't know why that never just seemed to come up. And so we would both be doing things and kind of stepping over each other. And it wasn't necessarily a safety, it never came to the point of being a safety concern, but we did see this could potentially be a safety concern. If there was an emergency or something that happened, we needed to know who the one was that was in charge without having to figure that out in the moment. So that was something we adjusted as time went on, where we recognized that that was going to be a problem and addressed that.
Yeah, just time together in that scenario would really be the thing that makes it better, doesn't it? I mean, just shoot, as my wife and I, we've been married 21 years, and even when I'm right seat in the car, it's a different experience. And shoot, it's even still the same things sometimes still pop up. Like, my wife has a startle reflex sometimes, so she observes a thing that's a risk and has a startle reflex that startles me, that kind of startle reflex. I didn't perceive a threat, and then there probably wasn't one. I'm wondering, did anything like that ever happen in the plane?
I'm trying to think. I don't know exactly. I think it was
too many things that surprise you.
I think it's more just, with communicating over the radio or stuff, like when to make the call that, hey, we're on final. I'm a little bit more cautious. I'm going to give a little bit more notice. I might be 8 miles out, and I'm like, hey, I'm just going to let them know that I'm heading in. And my husband will be like, you don't need to do that till 5 miles. That's okay. But
thresholds.
I just, yes. I want to be a little bit more cautious and just make sure. Yeah. So more things like that, I would say.
That's pretty cool. So you talk about the radio. How comfortable are you with radio communications in the plane? That I found to be a challenging space.
Yeah. So I was super blessed. As a teenager, I got to be a part of Civil Air Patrol.
Oh, so cool. I had forgotten that. My son did that too. I remember talking with you on that.
Yeah. So I was really involved with search and rescue, which involves a lot of radio communications between aircraft and between people on the ground. And so for probably a good 3 years before I even started working on my pilot's license, I was actively using the radios and going through that process, and in a much more forgiving environment. So that was really nice. So when I got to flying on the airplanes, it was so easy. Everybody was always like, wow, you do such a great job. You catch on really quickly. And like, well, I've had experience before, and it really came in handy with flying like during my solo, because I realized that I would use my strength in radio communications to help me feel more confident when I was feeling nervous. So I would talk very confidently over the radio, kind of intentionally, like, okay, I'm going to sound very confident. And somehow that would, I don't know, I would hear that and that would make me feel confident. It was a really interesting thing, but just hearing that, almost like fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
I'd be like, I'm going to pretend like I'm really confident, sound very confident, and hearing myself sound confident would almost interpret into the way I was flying and make me feel more confident in the air. It was an odd thing, but it really helped a lot.
You mentioning that, I was thinking back on my own solo flight, and it's so weird. You're alone for the first time in an airplane, and you're doing the same verbalization of all the things that you were taught to do with your instructor. Right. And I hadn't really thought about it that way, but yeah, just speaking out those words through the process that you're moving through really gives your brain a map of like familiarity of where you are, and the confidence that comes with it is totally real. That's really cool takeaway. I hadn't thought about my own experience that way until you mentioned that, but that just like solidified like a perspective that is true. I know it's true, but I hadn't quite articulated it before. Right. That's beautiful. Very interesting. Well, your communications now are in a totally different phase. You guys are both involved in raising the support that you'll need to sustain yourself through your work with Arctic Barnabas. And that is not just radio communication anymore. That's speaking in front of an audience, typically churches, right?
Yes. Yeah. Typically churches. And then a lot of times we'll meet with individuals one-on-one too. So a little bit of both.
Which one's harder?
I think churches, I would say. Yeah, just getting up in front of everybody and, they're not interacting back with you. Whereas, talking with individuals, it's a conversation like we're having. I'm sharing some, you're asking questions, you're sharing. With a group, an audience, you're not getting that feedback. So you just kind of hope what you're saying is resonating. And yeah,
and there's probably different sizes of churches too. I imagine some large, some small.
Yep. Nice. We've spoken with all different sizes. Yeah.
That's good. Yeah. Now I wonder, because like I've been with you, I've been with Austin, and it's really hard for me to imagine like which one of you would be more comfortable on a stage. I've never seen it before. So do you enjoy this more, or does Austin enjoy this more? Is it more relaxing for you to sit and watch him, or is that more nerve-wracking? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think we both do a pretty good job with public speaking. I will say, I think I do get a little bit more nervous watching him share. I think it's part of the control. I want to make sure what's being said is what's being said. And I've had to learn to let that go and realize he's doing a great job.
This and that and
right. And I realize like he's doing great. And, I see how people respond to it, and it really touches people and blesses them. And I'm like, I need to not be so worked up about this. Like it really is not a big deal. But yeah, I think we've both been able to do a pretty good job and have had different opportunities to speak prior to this. So I think that has helped a lot, just getting to, practice that throughout school and different things. So,
nice. At least you're in front of a forgiving audience as well.
Yes.
That must help.
Absolutely.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. No, I remember a lot of, I've talked about this before, so our loyal listeners will also remember one of the first things I want to do out of high school was be a mission pilot. And that was the trajectory I thought I would go in. I was at Cornerstone University here in Grand Rapids. They had the Missionary Aviation Fellowship, was working with the School of Missionary Aviation Technology at that time. Yeah. And that's the school, SMAT, S-M-A-T. That was where you got your A&P certification, correct? It's over in Ionian there. Then it used to be in Lowell. But anyway, I found the right girl, wanted to start a life. One of the reasons I never got into it was twofold, really. One was my spouse was not interested in aviation. Despite our interest in mission work, the aviation interest wasn't there, and it just would have been impractical. And I knew this was the right girl. So I was listening my heart on this, and I wanted to start a living. And so I went and started working for the family business. And one of the things that we never even went into the mission field at that time, because golly, starting out a life is so hard, and then needing to depend on the support from others and securing it seemed like an insurmountable challenge to me. But I've watched you in Austin, and it's just really, it's inspiring to see you guys, your humble lives, you're working hard, you're moving places as you're called or as the availability comes in. But isn't that, how's your feeling on it? Is that one of the hardest things about the mission work, at least so far, is just working to gain the support?
I would say so, yes. I wanted to be a missionary since I was really young. And I would hear the stories of different missionaries, and that was always the most terrifying part to me was, okay, like I want to go to the mission field, but this part of the raising the support, I knew it was coming and was going to eventually be there one day. And thankfully I had opportunities to practice that because I didn't want to go into debt for my training. So I basically did a form of support raising for my training. So that way, once we finished our training, we could go straight to the mission field rather than having to get an airline job or something like that. And so I did have experience with it, but with that, there was kind of an end goal. There was, hey, we have to raise this much for school, and then it's over. And now it's, this is a indefinite. We're going to Alaska and we're going to serve there as long as the Lord would have us. And that is it's a much larger goal. It has its challenges for sure. And especially with going to Alaska, it's not a third world country as far as the economy. The price of living, the cost of living there is very high.
It's higher than the rest of the country. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So we're at 55% right now, but we are past the goal of what we would have had to raise going with any other missions organization that we had looked at, just because of the cost of living up there is so high. So it's been a challenge, but the Lord has been providing, obviously. So.
That's so beautiful. I haven't really considered that with Alaska. Yeah, the cost of living is substantially higher. The standard of living is certainly not.
Yes. Yeah.
That sounds like a real struggle. And I guess that leads into kind of what the purpose of the mission really is up there, because it is a real struggle for missionaries to stay there. And my understanding and the research I've done on Arctic Barnabas, and I'd be curious to hear your perspective on this too, the biggest issue isn't getting missionaries to come there, it's getting them to stay.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was why ABM was started. There was a guy with another missions organization up there, and that organization still exists today. They're incredible. Their role, though, was to fly supplies out to the different missionaries and transport the pastors back and forth. And so he would be doing that. They'd stop in one village and they'd go to the next and fly to the next, and just had a circuit that they would run. And basically every village they stopped in, the missionaries would say, hey, like, come have a cup of coffee with us, come have a meal with us, come hang out. And he couldn't, because he had to go to the next village and the next village, dropping off supplies. And he started to see all these missionaries coming back, because he would be the ones to bring them back out of the village. So he started asking and saying, hey, what's going on? Why is everybody coming back? And they said, there's no fellowship out in these villages. We're the only believers out here trying to start churches. And these villages are off the road system. So you can't just drive between one village to another. You have to fly. These are not people coming out with pilot's licenses. These are pastors coming fresh out of theology training and seminary. And so they were saying, hey, like, it's us and my family out there, and we have no community. And so he was finding that the average time the missionaries were staying out there was between 2 months to 2 years. And the majority of them were all coming back in that time.
Wow.
And yeah.
What's the consequence that has on the people that they're trying to serve?
Right. Yeah. So their view on it is, well, if you can't press through the hard times out here, then why should we really listen to you? If it's not worth it for you to stay out here, then is the message you have really that important for us? And it was just, and they were starting to see that constantly as new missionaries would show up. Everybody would gather around them as they were offloading their supplies and getting into their home. And the native people would gather around and start claiming their supplies and would say, hey, like, when they leave, I get this. When they leave, I get this. And they had a whole system set up for how they would distribute the missionary supplies before the missionaries were even moved into their house. And they were just so used to it.
Oh, my goodness. So, that layer of trust that this is going to be a worthwhile relationship. I mean, it wasn't even based on the relationship anymore. It's based on things that they might leave behind.
Exactly.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yes.
That's really interesting, though. In our industry, the auto repair side of things where I work, we have high turnover of technicians, service advisors, even sometimes owners. And it's interesting because as you're talking, I was starting to think, too, it's like, what about any client relationship that is engaging with those individuals, when the individuals are constantly changing, the relationship doesn't ever really flourish. Who are you having a relationship with? The building?
Yeah.
Or anything else? No, it's with individuals, and that turnover can really break trust in any sort of scenario. And so we need some encouragement. We need a Barnabas.
Yes.
And I love the name of that mission, because your mission isn't just to go and evangelize the individuals of these towns. It's to be a member, a regular in the lives of the people that are involved in the whole thing.
Absolutely. That's a big part of what we do, is making it possible for these families coming in to be able to stay, because we realize it's not really their fault. They're coming into a community and they don't have fellowship, and so it's not that they don't see the importance of the message they're bringing, but it's just they don't get taught how to do subsistence fishing out of seminary. They don't get taught how to hunt in seminary. They don't get taught how to survive winters without electricity in seminary. And
I can't even imagine up there. Wow.
So they're coming out there and they don't have that support. And so that's what we're there for, is to say, hey, like, do you guys need food? If you do, we're here to help you, and we'll bring you to a place where we can all go fishing together. We can do this together, build relationships together. We'll help you get what you need, bring you back to your village, hang out. It's not very like the other organization, bring supplies in. It can't be quantified in that way. It's quantified based on the time we spend with the families, and that's what keeps them there.
Yeah, and the aircraft has a practical function to enabling the people to stay there. And that's a really interesting tie-in. It's like this bridge of communication, and that vastness, the vastness of Alaska is something I'm going to have to witness for my own eyes someday, because I can't quite imagine it. I look at it on the map. It's massive. I've seen pictures. Oh my gosh. I don't know. Like the airplane, a bush plane in specific in many of these cases, is the only way, short of a dog sled, which would take even long. I don't even know.
Yes. When my husband and I were flying over there for the first time to visit, on the plane, we thought, well, let's look up and see how big Alaska is, because I had no idea. And the first thing that comes up is this image of Alaska overlaid over the United States. And it was shocking. There were parts that were going all the way from Florida, all the way up to like North Dakota, and like from corner to corner, it's over twice the size of Texas. And it just blew my mind. And then when I saw all the places that ABM flies into, just thinking, oh, if I need to fly to this village, I'm flying basically, from Michigan down to Georgia to see this one family. And it's just crazy to think about it in that way.
Oh, combine that with the cost of everything up there too. Like, no wonder the goal is so difficult. Wow. Wow. The scale of it is just difficult. I'm imagining some of our listeners too. It's like, as you're hearing Evangela talk about this, like, that's a pretty big deal.
It is.
Goodness. Wow. So I read the book, The Comfort Crisis by Michael Easter. I remember talking about it with Austin at one point too. It's the one that got me all into rucking and everything. His story began with a camping trip that he was doing. Michael Easter does this, well, not a camping trip so much as a hunt for caribou up there. And it begins with him describing this bush plane that he has to get into, which was a tiny one by the sounds of it. And he does a good job describing his general fear and apprehension that went into climbing aboard on that, and then being left in this very remote place for a month is all he was going for. And that was like a month outside of civilization.
Yes. That was one of the hardest things about going up there that I did not expect, was when we went up there, just even though we were in a town that was on the road system, pretty large, they have a Home Depot and a Walmart and everything, which is where we'll be based out of. There was still such a feeling of isolation. It was a 4-hour drive from the one city, from Anchorage to that town, and just nothing in between. And it was just crazy. And even though you're in a place that has other people and you have a road system, I think the biggest thing to me was just realizing that I'm so used to being max an 8-hour drive for my family. And so should anything happen to anybody, that thought's always going through my mind. Okay, 8 hours, I can be there. And just being up there and realizing, wow, if God forbid something should happen to one of our family members, we're a 2-day trip easily, minimum, from being able to see our families. And I don't know why that was kind of that was kind of frightening to me. But yeah, just that kind of isolation from the things that you're used to. And even with being out in a village I got to go out to this summer, there's no hospital out there. We're easily a 3-hour flight from a hospital, and just realizing, wow, if something goes wrong here, like this is gonna, just that time in between everything was just a big shocker for me, I think.
Yeah, that's probably the thing that would cause me the most alarm in a place like that. Is any remote place, injuries are very different. All of a sudden, it can be quite serious. So you have to take extra precautions. And shoot, there's a whole nother dynamic with wildlife, like being dropped off up there. Then that book by Michael Easter is like, there's bears around, right? They exist quite a lot there, and that's a little bit intimidating if they're hungry.
Yes, yeah, for sure.
What are your biggest concerns environment-wise as you prepare for this?
Yeah, I think just with being prepared, like on the aircraft, in the case that anything should happen, we train for emergency situations all the time in training for being a pilot. Yeah, but it's a whole other level. You just focus on surviving and getting the plane down to the ground. That's all we focus on. And once you're on the ground, it's like, okay, you're good. You're safe. You can call somebody. You can go to a road. Usually you're landing on a road if there's not an airport nearby. But in Alaska, there's none of that. Getting on the ground is just the first part of a much bigger survival situation. Yeah. And so having to also think about that. And we have on every aircraft tons of gear, tons of survival gear and different things in case you go down. And one of the things they talk about, they say dress for egress. Basically, you have to be, what you're wearing in the plane is what you need to have on you should the plane go down in the wilderness. So you have a big coat on, you have hat, gloves, everything you need. Even if it gets kind of warm in the plane, you need to be ready in case something should happen and you go down.
That's really interesting. Yeah. What kind of planes are you guys flying? I'm picturing bush planes all the time when I think of Alaska.
A 206, a Cessna 206. So it's a single engine. It's a pretty larger aircraft. We fit like a dirt bike in there and a bunch of different stuff. And we took some things out to a village. So it's got some good storage capacity, and it can fit, I think, about 5 or 6 people in there. So, or I'm sorry, about 8 people, I believe. Total.
Wow.
So,
okay. Yeah. They are a pretty good size airplane. The fuel depots, do they have those around there too? Where you go is there fuel, and then, or do you have to have enough to fly there and fly back?
There are a lot of places that have fuel because aviation is the main source of getting in and out. Most of the runways that we're landing on are very nice runways, actually, which you wouldn't expect from necessarily looking at the town, but the runway and airport's going to be well taken care of. And it's a
life source, I guess you kind of have to, it sounds like.
It is. Yeah. And so we plan out the fuel, making sure that the places that we stop are places that do have fuel, and most of them do.
But your day-to-day won't be specifically flying here and there, doing this and that all the time. What will your typical day-to-day consist of? Yeah,
so the typical day-to-day, we are in the shop at 9 o'clock in the morning. We do a devotion for about an hour, and then a lot of the time, sometimes the morning time is spent just reaching out to the missionaries that are out in the villages. So we call them. Everybody has missionaries that they are responsible for keeping in touch with on a weekly basis. Nice. And so we call them and talk to them and see how they're doing. And if they just need somebody to talk to for a while and chat with, and we do that. We ask them how we can be praying for them. And then is there any needs that they have that we can help fulfill? So whether that's just, hey, we're feeling really down and could just use some community, we'll just fly out there to help be there for them. If they need counseling, we have a pilot who's a counselor, and he'll fly out there and offer counseling. If they need supplies, we'll fly out and offer supplies, but we kind of just ask them and gauge what their needs are.
It's proactive. It's not just reactive. Yes, exactly. That's what I'm hearing. Yeah, very important. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's so good. This is going to be a great follow-up conversation to one I just had about just call your clients.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this is really kind of on point. And yeah, it can be a major encouragement finding out what those needs are as well before it becomes a crisis for someone, truly.
Right. Absolutely.
How many different
Yeah.
villages is Arctic Barnabas serving?
Around 100. Sometimes
Whoa.
it varies. So yeah.
Whoa.
We don't really make it into all the villages every year though. So I think last year they made it into about 35. So sometimes another part of what we do is we have retreats. So the families will come to Kenai, which is where we're based out of, and
Kenai.
we'll either fly them in. Yeah.
That sounds like a really beautiful place, actually.
Yeah, it is. It's gorgeous. So we'll fly them into there and have retreats for them. So sometimes, if we don't get to fly out to their village throughout the year, they'll get to come to the retreat. And a lot of that is just due to they only have about 2 pilots right now. So once Austin and I get there, that'll double the amount of pilots they have, and we'll be able to fly a lot more.
Oh, wow. How many pilots do they have right now?
2.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Man, they do have their work cut out for them.
They do. Yeah.
Goodness. Wow. A few pilots. The weather I know can be crazy there. The space and the distance. That's something. Well, that's really amazing. Yeah.
They have a lot of other staff who aren't pilots as well. So they have staff who will fly like the regular charter flights that go between the villages too, to go out there.
Sure. They must have to use that method periodically too. Yeah. There's no shortage of bush pilots, I understand, out there probably willing to take a job.
Yeah.
A risky place though. Yeah.
It is.
It's really something. Wow. So when are you guys looking to make the move?
Yeah. So ABM kind of told us when we first joined in May of last year, they said, expect 1.5 to 2 years. So it's been a year, and our hope was, we thought, well, we could do it in a year. Like, we'll get it knocked out in a year. And now we're realizing it might be 1.5 to 2 years. Yeah. So we're about halfway right now. So we're realizing that's probably going to be pretty consistent. Our hope, the roads kind of closed down between October and beginning of April.
And by closed down, you probably mean snowed in and frozen over.
Yeah. And they won't even let you, the Canadian border, like you kind of have to declare where you're heading to and everything. And they won't even let you do that journey between those months because they don't want to have to come out and rescue you.
Exactly. Goodness.
So, yeah. Yep. So we're kind of realizing, we have till October if it's going to be this year. If it's not going to be this year, then it'll probably be after April next year. So.
Wow. Okay. So what do you do to prepare at this time?
Yeah. So just meeting a lot with churches and individuals. And then we bought a truck so we can get up there and have a vehicle that has 4-wheel drive.
You're going to have to drive there. I forgot that. That's a drive from Michigan to Alaska.
It is. Yeah. Wow. And we were looking at U-Haul prices to go up there, and they were saying that it was going to be $10,000 just to take a U-Haul up to Alaska, because there's not a lot of people.
It's like losing the trailer.
And forth. Yes, exactly. Yeah. So they said $10,000, and we were like, I feel like we could get a truck and a trailer for something that, at least we would have it at that point. So
I'm certain that we could find someone who's willing to give you a trailer.
We actually have one. We were able to find one for pretty cost efficiently. So
good.
Yeah. So we have both of those ready. We're doing pretty well set on what we need to actually get up there. So that's been great. A lot of supporters have helped us out with that. So that's been awesome.
Oh, that's great. So one of the things that I'll do for our listeners here in the show notes too, I want to get some links to your support page and your newsletter for those of you that are interested in following Austin and Evangela on their journey. I think it's an exciting journey. I'm sure some of our loyal listeners will enjoy following it as well. It's pretty exciting stuff. So thanks for sharing all this stuff. So on being a Barnabas, I just think it's such a great concept. I've been using this phrase a lot more, and I just kind of feel like as we take that into consideration of who this individual was in the past and how he served the early apostles in the early church, and what a dangerous time that was, how much encouragement and everything they needed, that they had this positive figure in their lives, and what a blessing that is. So need people to be the Barnabas in the industry too. And hey, if you need to be a Barnabas for Austin Evangela, I hope you will, because golly, you guys are doing some great things. And I'm so glad that Yeah, God's brought you guys in my life too. It was just neat.
Yeah, thank you.
I wanted to be the mission pilot, and who's my flight instructor? It's Austin on this journey, and I've just been living vicariously now through him and following your story. It's just been awesome. Hope I can visit you guys out there someday. I definitely have some good clients out in Alaska as well. I would love to see. I don't know quite about those mountains and the bears, but mountains do speak to me. But kind of hope
we'd love to have you out there for sure.
It'd be so much fun.
Yeah.
When's your next visit? I imagine you're going to visit before you move that way, yeah?
Yes. Yep. We're going to go in October. That's their big ministry family retreat. Yes.
Yep.
So we're going to go help with that and, serve with them then. So.
All right. Well, before October, it's still nice here in Michigan. Should grab you and Austin. We ought to fly somewhere in the northern area up by the Straits. That'd be a lot of fun too.
That would be a lot of fun.
Betsy'd be totally cool with it, with you or Austin behind the yoke, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be a lot of fun. I love flying up north to Michigan. A lot of times, we'll just do training in the local area and it kind of gets boring, but I love getting to do a cross country up there. So many beautiful places. Yeah,
that's my dream still. I want to fly over to one of those Fox Islands and camp out on one of those sometimes. Betsy and I are going to be camping out on the South Manitou Island in Sleeping Bear. Oh, we got to take a boat to that one, not an airplane.
Yeah. That's still super cool. That's awesome. Cool. Yeah.
Neat. Wow. Your first time up north, you guys went to Sleeping Bear, but I think you guys went at the wrong time of year.
We did. Yeah, we definitely did. Our anniversary is in February, and we'd heard everybody talking about how great it was up there and thought, hey, we'll just make a trip of it for our anniversary. And oh my goodness, everything's frozen over, snow, the wind.
You guys
was
didn't
incredible.
own a set of skis yet, did you?
No, we did not. Yeah. So we were like, they probably weren't talking about how beautiful it was. I mean, it was still beautiful, but not the kind of thing that we realized everybody was probably encouraging us to go up there and see. But
I still haven't gone up there in the winter.
Yeah.
So you beat us to that. So Florida people are beating us there now. I can't stand that. Me and Betsy plan to do a trip up there sometime in the cold, do some snowshoeing or something.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, well, awesome. Evangela, anything else you want to mention regarding the ministry and what you guys are doing, or final words for our listeners?
Yeah, I guess just thank you all for listening. And really appreciate being on here today. And if I could give any encouragement, just be a Barnabas for the people around you. You never know how much just those simple interactions and the encouragement mean to everybody around you. It's a big deal. So
beautiful. Well said. Thank you so much, Evangela. And thank you to our listeners for joining us today on this. And thank you to our sponsors who make this show possible. I do encourage you, please reach out to us here at Speak Up. Reach out to me directly with the email speakup@CraigO'Neill.net. O'Neill is O'Neill. If you have any questions for Austin and Evangela, I'll be happy to pass that along, and I'll include some contact information for their newsletter inside of these show notes. And remember to check out the other shows here also on the Aftermarket Radio Network. We have Remarkable Results Radio with Carm Capriato, Diagnosing the Aftermarket A through Z with Matt Fonslow, Business by the Numbers with Hunt Demers. Just did a wonderful chat with Hunt. What a great guy. Auto Repair Marketing Podcast with Brian and Kim Walker. And also there's the Weekly Blitz with Coach Chris Cotton. But again, thank you to our sponsors who make this show possible. Thank you, Evangela, for being such an awesome guest here. I am so excited for you guys, and I'm glad we have you here for one more Michigan summer at least.
Yes.
We'll have
glad to be here.
Yeah. So great.
Well, thank you so much.
Oh, you're very welcome. Now, listeners, I hope you can go out there, listen up, speak up, look up, and be a Barnabas for those in your life. Thank you.
You've been listening to Speak Up, Effective Communication with Craig O'Neill on the Aftermarket Radio Network. Follow Craig on your favorite podcast listening app and on his YouTube channel. Let him know what you'd like him to speak up about. Craig is all for advancing the automotive service aftermarket.